Tonight, we begin a special week-long series examining a problem that has taken on renewed importance for America's working families: child care. During the pandemic, the federal government spent more than $50 billion to shore up the child care industry. But advocates say cost and access are still major issues. Over the past several months, special correspondent Kat Wise and producer Kate McMahon traveled across the country for our series, Raising the Future: America's Child Care Dilemma. They begin with how we got here and what's at stake.
America's fragile childcare system was thrust into the national spotlight last year.
Daycares across the state are closing its doors because of the coronavirus,
forcing parents to scramble and driving millions of women out of the workforce. Today, as the country emerges from the pandemic with businesses and the economy roaring back to life, the same can't be said for the childcare industry.
And now many parents who want to go back to work are faced with a new problem: a childcare shortage.
Childcare has been one of the biggest struggles for working families for decades.
We were blown away by the cost of childcare.
Heidi Lohman and her wife, Miranda Chamberlain, live in Portland, Oregon with their 2-year-old daughter, Autumn.
All right, I'm going to push you in.
Heidi is a high school counselor and Miranda is an electrician. When they began their childcare search, they were shocked by what they learned.
She was born in 2018, and some of the places I toured were touring for the 2021 school year. So it was even like a year plus down the road. So it was a scramble. Bye, Mama.
Eventually, they found a program that cost nearly as much as their mortgage. And then COVID hit.
I had to lay myself off for about 4 months.
You found it.
As essential workers, they later found an opening at a center, but it wasn't a great fit.
It was for 4 days a week, and we were paying $1,650 a month, which that did exceed our mortgage. It's absolutely not sustainable. I don't think that working families should have to do this juggle, and I don't know how some families do it.
Before the pandemic, nearly 70% of children in the U.S. under the age of 6 lived in households where all parents worked. During those earliest years, when research shows that children need high-quality care and education, America's working families have had to cobble together childcare solutions in a private market that is costly, often lacks quality, and fails to pay caregivers a living wage.
It literally took a pandemic in order for childcare to be a part of everyday conversation.
Lynette Fraga advocates for affordable, quality childcare. She says it's a critical window of time for development. The science shows that during the first few years of life, more than 1 million neural connections are formed each second.
Why then should we leave that kind of importance, not only for the current workforce, but for the future workforce, to the market? How about we think about this as a public good?
Studies have shown that investments in childcare can pay off, including one that found $1 invested in quality childcare for economically disadvantaged kids returns more than $7 in savings. But not everyone wants more government funding for childcare.
The focus on non-parental group care for young children is detracting from our focus on supporting parenting and enabling parents to spend more time with their children if they want to.
Catherine Stevens is an early childhood researcher and author. She says more research is needed to understand the impacts of childcare on all children, and she thinks the federal government should stay focused on helping lower-income families.
Budgets are reflections of values.
Later, Tater.
If we are directing large sums of money to subsidize parents parenting less, that's a very significant statement to be making about the importance of parenting in our society.
But in today's world, many parents do need childcare, and demand exceeds supply.
Childcare programs are really struggling in finding staff.
Nationwide, the childcare industry has suffered a loss of 20% of its workforce since the pandemic. One of the hardest hit states, Oregon. 24-year-old Olivia Pace of Portland lost her job at a childcare center in March of 2020.
Most of us got laid off. Most people didn't go back or have gone back and then left since then.
She has a degree in child and family studies and planned on being in the field a long time, but now she's not sure if she'll ever go back.
Even though I love working with children, the structure of the field is such that if that's what you want to do, you're going to be worked to the bone and you're going to be really burnt out, and I didn't want to do that anymore.
About 97% of early educators are women. About 40% are women of color, and the majority of women are Black, brown, and immigrant women who are doing this work.
Leah Austin is the director of the Center for the Study of Child Care Employment at UC Berkeley. She tracks workforce issues nationally.
The median wage right now for early educators in this country is $12.12 an hour. And we know from research that we've done at the center that about half of this workforce utilizes some form of public safety net program. And
it's a huge number.
It's a huge number. We have subsidized the system on the back of the workers.
Austin blames the fragility of the system on the failure of the private market.
It is a critical part of our infrastructure. But the way it is designed now is it's a market-based system. And it is based on what parents can pay. That's how you access childcare. We're saying, go out and see what you can afford.
But there was a time when childcare wasn't so hard to find.
Married women with small children have to take jobs. Everything possible will be done to provide day care for the children.
That time was during World War II. I'm standing on a Navy ship here in Portland that was built largely by women during that era. The federal government recognized that women were essential to the war effort, but in order to build ships like this, they needed childcare. About 75 years ago, just across the water from me, there was a federally funded child care center that provided high-quality care for about 400 children while their parents were hard at work.
But when the war ended, the government shuttered the Oregon Center and 3,100 others like it across the country. The last time the U.S. government seriously considered child care policy was in 1971, but President Nixon vetoed it, saying a national child care system would weaken American families.
Child care thing would have been not only an administrative monstrosity.
That kind of kicked child care back to the bottom of the public policy mountain and hasn't recovered since.
Elliot Haspel wrote a book recently on child care reform.
You can't understand early childhood in America without understanding a deep history of sexism. There's a sense that it is the duty and obligation of the mother to take care of the young child. The problem, of course, is that, especially since the 1960s, women have entered the workforce in very large numbers, but there's been no adjustment on the policy side to that reality.
Until now, the pandemic has pushed childcare back to the top of the political agenda.
This legislation includes the biggest investment in child care since World War II.
President Biden has proposed $225 billion in new child care spending over 10 years, but there is still stiff opposition.
We can't have everything. We cannot advance women's careers and boost the economy and optimize early child development all at the same time. This is just a tough reality.
We need a system that's going to support parents, whatever they want to do. The American child care dilemma can be summed up in the fact that we don't have an American child care system.
Hey, Audie.
While the politics play out, America's child care dilemma continues for families like Heidi Lohman and Miranda Chamberlain.
Yeah. Next week, I'm asking for a reduction in hours because our daycare is changing their hours.
Their long-term plan? Moving away from Portland to raise Autumn near extended family. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Kat Wise in Oregon.